Howdy doody, buckaroonies. My friends over at Expressive E recently got in touch with me about their new instrument called Noisy, which is a synthesizer that blends the idea of acoustic resonance with traditional subtractive synthesis. Noisy is built around 3 oscillators, which can be freely morphed between a resonant comb filter and a traditional oscillator waveform, so it's combining the idea of car plus strong string synthesis with a subtractive synthesizer. It's also bitimbral, has some built-in effects, and has a pretty detailed expressive modulation system to get some really interesting, complex sounds out of it with a bit of careful patch programming. Noisy is based around the idea of resonance, and today I wanted to see if we could take that idea one step further by sampling some objects around my house to create impulse responses that we can load into a Convolution Reverb to create the body of the instrument and see what we get. So big thanks to Expressive E for sending along a copy of Noisy as well as sponsoring today's video to help support the channel. If you want to check out Noisy for yourself to follow along as we go here or find more information, you can check that out with the link down in the description. So I have to squat down to be in frame for the shot, and that's kind of annoying, but I'm also getting a wicked leg workout right now. So originally, after setting up to film this segment of the video and getting everything set up to record, I discovered I own not 1, but 2 completely dead microphones, so that's amazing. Instead, we're going to redo this, and I'm going to be using the DAWg S-Mic 2, which is up here out of frame, to record all of these samples. We're going to record each one twice, that way I can get a left and a right channel that are a little bit different to create a stereo convolution reverb impulse response. Then we're going to combine those recordings with the sound of this guy, which is a cheap contact microphone I picked up on Amazon. This is going to help us record the actual resonance of the object. We'll blend all 3 together and make the final impulse response to load into our Convolution Reverb. If you want to pick up the impulse responses from today's session as well, you can find those on my website. I went around the house here and picked up a couple objects that we'll be using to create these impulse responses today. First up, I've got my old nylon string guitar here. I've got this water filter that I keep forgetting to buy filters for, so it's currently empty and should make for a nice thunky sound. This awesome whiskey box set, which should provide a nice, dense, boxy wooden sound. A shoebox from Torrid because my wife needed some new boots. A refreshing can of Dr. Pepper and cream soda. My super awesome pineapple cup. This gigantic thing of dish soap. A stunningly purple plastic coffee cup. This sugared cherry crisp candle from Bath & Body Works. And finally, this here hurricane glass, which has been used probably exactly once since I got it, but it has this cool kind of bell shape, so I'm excited for this one. I think it should be particularly interesting. Now that we've got the impulse responses ready, we can load up Noisy and a Convolution Reverb. So this is Noisy, and we've got the 3 oscillators down here at the bottom. We have the expression control, which can act as an envelope, and a velocity sensitive control here. The LFO, the noise type, so we can select between 4 different types of noise. We can assign anything to the expression amount here from this expression control, so there's pretty deep modulation possibilities, but it's nice that it's actually all just in one interface rather than in a mod matrix. Here we've got the mixer for the 3 oscillators, so we've got a left-right panning tool, level control, and we can blend in just the regular noise. So if we solo out this second layer here, we can blend in just the noise and blend in the synth sound to get a hybrid between that and the noise. To the right, we've got the filter and the clipper. Then there's a gain control here, and then in the bottom we have our oscillators. So these work by moving around this XY control to shift between the different waveforms. I've soloed out only the first oscillator layer here, and you can see we can control this with the XY pad between a sine wave. We've got the triangle, square, and a saw. Then we can blend between that and the resonant comb filter here. Right now it sounds a little weird, but we can up the resonance. We get more of a string, or we can get more of kind of a tube or harp sound. And we get this across 3 layers. Noisy, as I mentioned, is bitimbral, so this patch, we've got the second layer here, and that is blended with this first layer over here. And we put that together, and we get this nice big bass sound. Noisy is capable of a whole lot of sounds here. We've got some pads. Here's a couple different pluck and mallet sounds. And since Noisy combines the idea with physical modeling and subtractive synthesis, it's also got a lot of different synth sounds. And I think you get the idea. So here I've got a preset up called Hammered, which is a sort of acoustic sounding instrument. And I want to load this through the impulse responses we recorded, because right now we've essentially got what sounds like strings, but it doesn't quite have a body. There's a little bit of body tone there, but it just feels like string synthesizer stuff. Here I've got Convology XT, which is a free convolution reverb that you can load your own impulse responses into. So I've got the soda can set up here, and we can start blending this in to hear the difference that this makes to the sound. And as you can hear there at 100% wet, it sounds kind of strange, but it feels like it's in more of an acoustic body. We could drop the width down a bit and maybe stretch out the impulse response for something a bit weirder. And then maybe up the decay slightly and bring back a little bit of the dry signal just to get that top end. And that's a really cool way to create some unique instrument things that just don't sound like anything. It's also a lot of fun to try other impulse responses, so we could try like the hurricane glass sounds. That one's a little wide, so we'll drop that down. Totally different sound, and as we flip through these, each one has something a little different to it. Let's maybe try the shoebox, which should provide a darker tone because that didn't have too much high end to it. And that's all the same preset, so that's just that sound, but being fed through a shoebox. Now, another really interesting way to go about this is using a multiband convolution reverb. There are third-party plugins that can do that, but instead what we can use is the DAWg Multiband Effects 3 to run Noisy through 3 different impulse responses, one for the low band, one for the mids, and one for the high band. So we can really customize our instrument to have a lot of different timbres and resonant characters. I've got this loaded up now with a shoebox on the low band, a soda can on the mid band, and another soda can, but a different impulse response on the high band. So that takes the same sound and turns it into this. So now we could start experimenting with different IRs to get something a little strange. Let's maybe do a guitar in the low band and switch this out for a coffee cup on the mid band. And as you can hear, these have a pretty significant impact on the final result. Maybe that darker sound on the mid band, and let's load maybe the hurricane glass on the high band. Now we could start blending these in a little bit, let a little bit more of the mid through. And we've created another totally unique instrument. From here, we could sample this out with a couple notes per octave and then create a sampled instrument in something like Contact or Falcon, or just save this as one big preset if your DAW allows you to do that. This process isn't limited to just acoustic instruments though. I've got another preset here called Classic Analog, which is just like a synth brass thing. And we can run that through the same chain here. So now I've got the whiskey box on the low band, a coffee cup on the mid band, and then a candle on the high band, and that turns that sound into this. This whole process is a lot of fun and can give you some really weird and wild results, especially as you start to stretch these impulse responses out and try weird sounds through it. So we could maybe do one more here of just running a pad through this exact same setup. And let's see what we got before. And now let's run it through the IR chain. Maybe blend this in a little differently. And we've got something kind of foreign but familiar, acoustic but synthetic, and just all around weird and different. This whole process is one of my favorite approaches to designing different instrument sounds because it gives you something that is really unique without a whole lot of effort, but also is just something you can't make otherwise. It's just not something you can synthesize. And I think Noisy lends itself well to this because it blends this idea of physical modeling with subtractive synthesis and just enhances the character of something new but familiar. And that wraps everything up for this one, so thank you again to Expressive E for sending along a copy of Noisy and sponsoring today's video. If you want to pick up Noisy for yourself or find more information, you can check out the link down in the description. And if you want to pick up the impulse responses I made here today, you can find those on my website. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I hope you learned something, and I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again soon.